episode 4 of the Drawing Animal Podcast with Wesley Bear. I'm your host, Wesley Bear, and today we will be talking about rabbits and how to do layers in at least an electronic drawing format like the one I use. So we will be talking about those two things today. And so to begin off, we will be talking about rabbits. So just a basic overview of rabbits is that we have a creature which is called a lagomorph. And of the lagomorphs, we have hares, rabbits, and also pikas. And so normally what you think of when you think of rabbits and hares, you think of a creature with long ears and long legs. But because pikas are also considered a lagomorph skeletally and biologically, they are not distinguished by those two characteristics. The way to tell a lagomorph from a rodent is mostly through their dentition, meaning their teeth. So we have rabbits, hares, and pikas having 4 upper incisors, while mice and rats have only 2 upper incisors. Rabbits and hares and pikas also have more cheek teeth than rodents do, which is important for rabbits and hares and pikas because they are strictly herbivorous animals. So only eating plants, while rodents tend to be much more omnivorous and tend to eat just about anything. The other key difference and the most distinguishing if you're out in the woods looking for animals and come across, say, tracks, is that lagomorphs don't have paw pads that leave prints behind. And this is because their feet are covered with fur. So if you see that paw pad in, say, the dirt or snow, it's going to be a rodent or some other mammal. While if you don't see paw pads, that is a clear sign of a lagomorph. So today we will be talking about a specific rabbit, which is the swamp rabbit. The swamp rabbit is a species very much similar to its cousin, the eastern cottontail. There are a couple key differences, though, that make it pretty distinguishable. One is that it is quite a bit larger, being up to 9 pounds in weight. They have a much darker fur, molted, almost color to it, with a yellowish undercoat. They also tend to have rounded ears, and they also have fur that is very thick and waterproof. And this is important because swamp rabbits are actually semi-aquatic rabbits. They spend a lot of time in the water and will even dive underwater. This is because they live mostly in the southeastern part of the United States, and in those regions there tend to be floodplains, lowlands, cypress swamps in general, and because those regions are so watery, they have adapted to a semi-aquatic lifestyle that allows them to swim through all those rivers, streams, deep swamps, and has actually made them pretty powerful in both strength and speed. So they actually even look more like a deer running than a rabbit when they're on dry land. So they are a rabbit that is very much more powerful and bigger than its eastern cousin. They tend to eat, of course, grass, seedlings, pretty much anything vegetarian. They'll even eat water plants because of their semi-aquatic diet. They will, once they have babies, they will build a nest for them, usually under a log. Those babies will be dependent on mom for a while. They'll usually be open within 4 weeks, their eyes, and then they will be out within 7 weeks. So they go from pretty helpless creatures to very independent creatures within weeks. They will tend to live about 2 to 6 years, just depending on circumstances like being caught or eaten by predators or just sickness. So it kind of depends, but that's about the average age, from about 2 to 6 years old. So that's our rabbit for the day. But today I will be giving you a small tip on layers. So when you're doing layers in an electronic system, you're going to go to the sidebar and you'll always see a button called layers, and if you want to add one, you'll just click the add button and it will add. But the important thing to remind yourself when doing layers is they build themselves much like you would build layers of a cake or a building. So your first layer will tend to be the thing that's prominent in front, in the foreground, and then as you add layers, it builds it more and more into the back. And so you want to be careful of that, because anything in the foreground will cover up things in the background if you're not careful. So you want to make sure that each layer is distinct and you're doing things specifically in that layer. So this especially applies to when you're doing color and overlapping color with one another. So if I have, let's say, a tree in the background, and I want to color that in, make sure that you're coloring within that layer or the layer above it, because otherwise you will definitely cover over that layer once you put color into the foreground. So make sure to do things each separately within their own layer or the layer above it. That will keep lines from being erased and colors being overlapped. In my system, it becomes very hard to overlap within just a layer, because of the way at least my electronic system is built. So you always want to make sure that as you add layers, that you are working within that layer or the next layer. So that's my key tip for layers. And remember, it's just like building a cake, that one just precedes the other. Always begin at the bottom and work your way up. And as you work yourself up, you are basically adding detail. So the details will usually come later in the process of drawing, and then be added later. And it all kind of depends on what kind of details, whether they're in the background of, say, that tree versus the animal in the foreground. So just, again, remember where it is, where you've done it, where you want to add things, color, detail, and you'll be fine. But it can be hard to track sometimes, so always double check before you do anything layered. Go back into layers and double check, because otherwise you're gonna create a mess, and you're just going to have to backtrack. And with my electronic system, it's not too bad, but it can be just a time waster if you don't do that. And that's the main issue, is that you don't want to have to work harder on your drawing than you do. And that's the main reason to do it. In an electronic system, you can go back, make those changes if you really need to. It's not always hard to do, but it does create wasted time and wasted potential for you to work out other things, and it can create frustration. So always remember and double check what you're doing in those layers. And that's my tip for the day. Again, you can get my books, which are The Crazy Creatures of Oz Meet the Colorful Animals of Australia, or Crazy Creatures of the Ocean, Shocking Sharks and Radical Rays. My website is back up. I will try to start adding things back to that website, including this podcast and any more updates on books and stuff. And that'll be coming in the future. I might be doing some book trailers for the books I currently have, and for the book that is hopefully upcoming within the next month or so. I am currently working on my third book, which is going to be on cats and dogs, at least wild ones, and so stay tuned for that. And I'm also looking at next month with the third book hopefully being finished within that time, doing a couple of local book signings. So if you live in the Springs area, look forward to that, and I will let you know where you can find me at. So enjoy nature, enjoy animals, and enjoy drawing, and have a wonderful day.